Hi, I'm Hayley.
And I'm Kayli.
And today we're watching The Watchers.
We're getting watched while you're watching us, and we're watching y'all, and they're watching us. Snap, 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 snaps. Yes, this is starring Dakota
Fanning.
I was going to say Johnson. Yes. And this is M. Night Shyamalan's daughter's debut directorial. Wow. Yes. Hayley.
Yeah.
What did you think about this one?
What did I think about this movie? I liked this movie. I mean, how do I say this? I mean, I think I like the overall concept of this movie. I think the execution in some areas was a little lackluster, but I thought it was entertaining. Yes.
Yep.
Without super diving in. But what about you?
So I do have a coworker. We talk about books all the time, horror specifically. And he was like, hey, you should read this book called The Watchers. And I never did. And I went to go see the movie. And immediately as it started, I was like, oh, this would have been a better book. And that's just how I felt about it. And I did end up reading the book. So we'll talk about the differences there. But yeah, it felt very much like your basic horror film. It felt like a watered down version of whatever the source material was. And that's kind of what it ended up actually being. So that's my overall thoughts. Positive as always.
How did you like the book?
I really liked the book. Okay. Apparently, they're making a sequel to this book. I don't know about the movie, but another book is coming out in October, I believe, of this year. So kind of exciting.
Were there a lot of differences between the book and the movie?
Yes and no. I think a lot of the story revolved around the characters and like how they interacted with each other and how they interacted with the environment they're in. And I feel like we didn't get enough of that backstory or like any kind of interaction with the characters in the movie. To me, like the movie just felt very rushed. And I feel like with the book, it took its time where you got to know these characters and blah, blah, blah. So it's a very similar vibe to it. But like the dynamics between Madeline, Mina, Danny, and Kira are very different. Like Kira and Danny are seen as more juvenile characters. They don't do shit, basically.
Okay.
They wouldn't know how to survive if nobody told them what to do. And that goes into Danny's abusive past. And it goes into like, not really Kira's character. She just seems to be very much like a naive girl who loses her innocence later on. And then Mina's character, it's slightly different with her backstory. Like her mom didn't die 15 years ago or whatever. She died that past year. So she just lost her mom. And she is estranged from her sister.
Was it because of her? Okay.
I have no idea how her mom died. We didn't even get into it.
Oh, okay.
So, but it was like Madeline's character in the book was very much like a domineering one. She always seemed like a little off. She always was very bossy to everyone and like didn't really smile, didn't have fun kind of vibe, which was similar to the movie. But I felt like you didn't really get the sense that Madeline was entirely off in the movie, in my opinion. What did you think about Madeline's character?
I knew something was up because she seemed too knowledgeable in a way that I thought was kind of, they did say they didn't know how long she was there. But the way she was acting, she must seem kind of like, not excited, but just like she was very, I know what to do. You need to follow the rules. Just trust me. And I'm like, when you say trust me, I don't want to trust you.
Automatically.
I didn't think she was one of the watchers. I thought that she was going to end up being like the guy's wife. Like I really did. I was like, oh, she must be connected to the guy in some way. So I thought she was like the wife. I thought she might have done something to her husband. Like I thought it was going to go in another direction. So at least they kind of got me there with that little twist, but I figured something was up. But I mean, I did not like her character. I was just kind of like,
To me, before it was revealed that she was a fairy, I was like, how does this girl know how does she know all of this? Like they go into the forest and find that portal and all this kind of stuff. I was like, why does she know everything? That's so weird. And then the book, she is taller than everybody. She's like almost 6 foot. And like her proportions are like a little off, like with her hands, but they just think it's because she's very sickly. And she has like because she's been there the longest. Yeah. And she has like a shawl around her at all times. So like nobody knows what she really looks like. And so those are the pieces of the puzzle that you get in the book where she might not be human. And I just feel like this movie did a weird, when we first started and she got the bird and she was like, my mom died. I was like, oh, this is how we're learning about stuff. I was like,
oh, when she was talking to the bird.
Yes.
It was a little forced.
And then even whenever she was like begging for Danny to open the door, and that's when she revealed like her tragic backstory, I was like, really? This is how we're going about it? Yeah. I was like, this just seems so forced, basically. It just didn't flow well. Nothing really flowed well in the movie for me. Yeah. Especially when it came to like the reveals of like, oh, it's my fault that we got into that car accident and my mom's dead and yada yada. As soon as she was talking to the bird talking about my mom died, I was like, oh, this isn't going to be good.
Yeah. She was like, don't die, which was funny because then the bird was like, don't die. But I don't know, like I was like, oh, and then she was like talking to the bird in the car. It was a little cheesy, if you will. I'm like, I just don't think that would be.
And the fact that she took that bird everywhere with her, bro.
Yeah, everywhere. I need to see a little bit more. Why she cared. That bird would have been gone a long time ago. Not because I probably just would have ran away because I got scared of something, but she was hanging on that bird. But yeah, there was one scene or part where, remember, she was like doing her little character. She like put on a wig, went to the bar, and then when she talked to the bird, she's like, "You don't want to know the real me." I was like,
"That's how I felt too."
I was like, "Okay, it's gonna be one of those movies." So
there was no subtlety. There was no mystery. No. It's like we got everything we needed.
We did. She saw that bird. She's like, "You're my friend now,
and I'm gonna tell you everything.
I'm gonna tell you everything every single time," which was fine. I mean, the bird low-key helped them at the end. I don't know if the bird helped them in the book. Okay, but
no.
But yeah, I like the concept because it was different than I think a lot of movies that I've at least seen, because there is a place in the woods. There are these beings watching them, and you're like, why would they be watching them? They seem like very primitive animal. You know, they seem like just monsters. Like, why would they want to sit and watch, and why are they clap? Like, it was just really weird. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then of course you have like the bunker, and you're like, who put this here? Why is it here? And so I think that was good.
I would love to dive more into the bunker and the whole coop. How the fuck did it even get made?
Well, I was gonna say when the professor who created the bunker started explaining in the videos how he made it, didn't make sense
at all.
I get what he's saying in terms of like he was sacrificing workers, and I get it if like he had the same workers working for like a year and then at the end they were sacrificed. But you're telling me every single day you're finding men who are down on their luck and have no family that cares about them.
In neighboring towns, may I add.
How many men are there who are like down on their luck with no family?
Right. And especially around there, when we saw no relics of like any kind of civilization over there, it's just the woods. Yes. And they can't leave the woods in the book or in the movie. Damn, I gotta get my shit straight. It doesn't seem that way in the book. It doesn't seem like they run, like in the beginning when John was running and he sees the same sign over and over again. It seems like you're trapped there. Like, it doesn't matter how far you run, you're going to be in the same area. That's the vibe I got from the movie. But in the book, it was very much like they were just lost. Like, the woods were very dense. They couldn't leave because there was no trails or whatever. Like, it was very dangerous woods like that. So it seemed like, I guess because it's the same explanation in the book as in the movie as how it got built, basically, where he just like would gather crew members and kill them off at the end of the day. But it makes more sense that they're able to kind of get there rather than like, you can't leave the woods. How did you get more people to come into the woods? And how did you ever get this done? I don't.
Yeah, because that would take years. Heavy equipment.
Yeah.
Like, he needs like a bulldozer. You know, they got to dig down for the bunker.
And that stuff doesn't work, apparently.
Yeah, that's why I didn't get that part. Because I'm like, you're telling me you got to get. And every time you show up, you got to show the new plans. They have to look at it, read it, sit with it, and try to figure out what your plans are and then start. Because it's like you're giving them these new people a blueprint every time. Yep. So that must have taken forever. So that part was a little bit of a stretch for me.
I agree. I just didn't get it at all. I was like, but there's no neighboring towns. I was like, there's not really there.
She's in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I guess somewhere he'd have to like drive 30 minutes in another direction. But how did he get out?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
How is he getting out every time to go get these men and bring them back?
That's the part I did not understand.
And you're telling me that there's not like some kind of missing people, 80 men missing? Construction workers, right? Like, what?
The whole backstory of how we even have the coup doesn't make any sense.
But it's fine. We're here now,
right?
We're suspending reality here.
Sure.
There's a bunker in the middle of the forest, so that's what we're going with,
right? Yep.
And we have these people.
And it's like basically the same bare bones of the book is the same as the movie.
Okay.
So the doctor did lose his wife, and he showed them a picture, like the Watchers, a picture of his wife, and that's why they were able to replicate Madeline so well. He did the whole research about fairies, and that's how he found it. Like, all of that is still true.
Okay.
I kind of wish they would have talked a little bit more about fairies and fairy folklore in the movie, because as soon as they said fairies, I was like, girl, fairies.
That don't look like a fairies I've seen.
Right. And like whenever it's introduced in the book, they talk about a banshee and like how they would steal people and blah blah blah. So it was like evil fairies and like actual creatures rather than like Tinkerbell. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So were they saying, because from the lore they used to be gods, if you will, did they look like that back then, or are we to assume that they've evolved over time to look the way that they do? Because it seemed like they were walking around almost like angels, and they were speaking, and they were very like with it. But now it seems like they're like they don't really talk.
Kind of like The Descent, where they were like morphing and evolving.
But it mutated, or they've like, you know, what is it when you
evolve?
There we go. You've evolved down or whatever. And now they're just
because that could have been what it is, because that's why they're able to like see better at night, and they have, I
guess. But when they were angels, if you will, were they able to go out in the daytime?
See, that's the thing. I
was just confused. I'm like, okay. And then how do the humans? You're telling me they have powers? They're clearly stronger and faster than humans. How did the humans one up them?
Yeah.
And who in this magical forest? Because clearly the forest is its kind of own being. And then you have the fairies, if you know what I'm saying, or the changelings. And so I'm just like, so did somebody put a spell in the forest? Or are the fairies controlling the forest? Or is the forest its own magical being kind of protecting them? But why have they been banned here? They can't leave because the humans defeated them? I guess I was just like, you're telling me weak little humans? I don't know. And then I was confused because, of course, at the end, we find out that Madeline is actually a halfling, if you will. So we find that out. And I'm like, how does she not know? Because does that mean that all of the fairies have been there for thousands of years and they're the same fairies as 1,000 years ago? Because who was messing with the fairies? You know what I'm saying? Some point, a fairy and a human were like, right? And that happened all the time back in the day, and they were very common. So how did she pop up, or Madeline pop up as a halfling? Who the daddy? Who's
maybe
mama?
It was like a recessed gene type of thing, you know, like let's say halflings were together and then they started mating with like not
the biracial with the biracial make biracial, right. But basically. That means that other ones should have also had the same powers as her,
right? And
it was described as if she was the only one.
Well, because then they were like, there might be more like you, blah blah blah, at the end, and
like
then
around
she flew
the world.
Off. But okay, in the book, the way that it ended, so Mina is artistic in the book as well, but it's like her main job, like she's an artist, and so she does a lot of like people watching and drawing people. And there was like this girl that she would draw that she deemed like the android before she went into the forest, and it was like a woman whose features were always the same. And then at the end when she escapes and she goes home, she sees the android again, and she's looking at Mina and she's like, oh, is that Madeline, blah blah blah. And then she sees another girl join the android, and there's more people who are just looking at Mina who look like the Watchers. She's like, bro, what the fuck? And then she hears Madeline as a man. She's like, Mina, you gotta go, girl. You're in trouble. They've been watching you. There's more than just me. And that's how it ends. And I'm like, oh, wow, what's gonna happen now? So
they were always around.
Yep.
And now... okay, they're onto her because she knows their secret. And
that's what I liked more about the book too, is that Madeline, she, I guess, kind of respected the doctor, Dr. Kilmartin or whatever. And so when she watched the video of him being like, you have to destroy everything, like nobody can come here, she took that shit to heart. And so she was like, we have to destroy everything. And
Madeline or Mina?
Madeline.
Oh, so Madeline was on board with destroying everything.
Yes.
Okay.
And that included Mina and Kira, because she was like, those are loose ends. Like, they're going to talk. Okay. So that's why she attacks at the end in the book, because she's like, y'all are going to tell everybody about this and y'all can't. This is a danger. But then that's when they're like, no, like you were one of us. Like, you lived with us for so long. Like, you can't kill us. And so she ends up not killing them. And that's when at the end, Madeline goes to me and is like, girl, you're in trouble. Like, it's not just me. So I liked that part in the book because it makes a lot more sense than them like I don't even know why they're fighting, because they found out the truth about
evil.
Madeline.
Yeah, she's like, rah! And I was like, and the power of love. She's like, no, remember
like,
you loved us.
right.
You took care of us. You were our mom. And she's like, I was. And I was like, which did feel rushed. That's why I was like, I can tell this was a book. Should have probably been a series.
I think so too.
You know, like a limited series.
Yep.
I'm like, I think I would have understood Madeline's character development a little bit better. But because at the end it was way too rushed. It was like, she's mad at them. We're like, we haven't seen her up to this point. So she's all of a sudden trying to attack them.
Yeah.
And then she was like, oh no, the power of friendship, or like whatever. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay. So that part was a little rushed, but I get it. You only have you have a movie that you're trying to go.
It's just crazy though, because this movie was an hour and 47 minutes long. And I'm like, we could have spent time.
Which isn't that long.
It's not that long,
compared
but
to,
it's like
movies.
I don't know. Like, I feel like we could have spent some time doing something else. Like, when she was hanging out with Kira, and Kira's like pointing out all the plants, and I was like, okay, so somebody's going to get sick.
Yes.
Nothing.
No.
I was like, what was the point?
Just the plants.
That wasn't even in the book. So that was just written in for the movie and then not even used. I was like, that's like introducing a gun in the movie and never having anybody
Going
get
back
shot.
to it again, yeah.
So it just was like, why are we doing that? That was such a weird choice. And yeah, and like the ending where it was like basically a kumbaya moment where they're like, you're human. Madeline's not human. She's a changeling.
She's half human.
In the book.
Don't discredit.
In
the book, she's not a halfling.
From what I know, she is not.
Oh, they don't mention that.
No.
But she can go out in the daytime.
Right.
So that's just a mystery.
Right. So I don't know if that's going to get explained in the second book.
Okay.
But in the first book, it's just like she's one of the few that can walk out in the daylight.
Do they talk about halflings at all?
No, they don't ever talk about human relations.
Because that was my question. That's when we started confusing things. Because I'm like, well, that means if she is not that old, a human was in the forest getting it on, and then die. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then a baby was born.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, we don't know why they can go in the sun. I'm like, how'd you not know?
Right.
Somebody saw something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
somebody heard something at least.
Yeah. Unless you're like unless you're like thousands of years old.
Yeah.
And you just don't remember because of you've been like in the dark so long. I don't know. But that would make sense that has, unless they have another explanation that the book might.
It might go into it.
But I was confused on that. I'm like, how did you not know you were bispecial?
Yeah.
Bispecial?
Right.
Bispecial.
Biracial. And she's all biracial girl. But
she got her wings. Sorry, I just
that was so.
I was reminded. Like, oh brother!
Did you
ever
read
the book?
No.
There's any wings in the book?
There's no wings.
Okay. Sorry.
Also, no birds like flying to freedom.
Escape. So how do they get out to freedom?
Basically, the doctor was like, "Hey, if you head south, I left a compass," and they just headed south.
Oh,
so
okay,
that was it. Yeah, it reminded me of Maximum Ride. Have you ever read that series? No. Where it's like basically half bird, half human children.
I'm sorry.
They had like it's like a book I read like back in middle school, high school.
No. You read it last week.
I kind of want to reread it, to be honest.
What was that about? Bispecial.
Basically,
babies.
like I think they're like experiments or whatever, and like it's a group of 5 of them, and they're like a makeshift family, and yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it reminded me of that, and I was like, oh wow, blast from the past. But it was just so goofy seeing her fly off with her little wings and find out that she had wings. I don't know. Madeline in the book was never confused what she was. She knew that she was a changeling. And
did she always know she was pretending, or did she get lost in her character at any point?
I don't think she got lost at all, because Mina, as an artist, she liked to look at people's faces. And at the end, when they're having their argument, she's like, yeah, I thought a few times that you noticed that there's something off about me because you kept staring at me.
She's like, nah, I just like to look at folks.
I just like to draw.
I had nothing else to do.
Right.
Like,
so it wasn't ever like she got lost in the character of it, and we were never told that she was human. And there was one more thing I was going to say about that, and I forgot. But yeah, so Madeline's character. Oh, and Madeline felt very lonely before she became Madeline, as we see her now, because she was the only one who could traverse during the day that she knew of in her little area. So she was walking around all by herself, and that's why she got connected to the doctor. I mean, of course, like he didn't know about her.
Did she appear as a little girl? Like he said in the movie. Because why would she know did they kidnap a little girl? Maybe.
I don't know what that's about. Like you said, maybe the Forest is like a whole other side character, and it just likes to fuck with people.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what that's about, because they would have to mimic things that they've seen, and if they didn't see a little girl,
Then why would you? Yeah, unless they have, they probably.
Why
been
did
out
we
there for
even
quite
bring up
some
the little
time.
girl? I don't know. The whole thing was a little.
It was creepy because he was like, "Yeah, she appeared as a little girl. I knew she was special." And then like, I made her my wife, and I'm like, "Is this borderline?" You know?
Yeah.
Maybe a little comfortable because I was like, "Oh," because it's like this animal that's like, excuse me, that's like they're portraying the animal as like not less intelligent, but like not. They can't really express themselves through language, or at least our language, and they're like almost animalistic. So then when he was like turning the changeling into his wife, I'm like, this is problematic. I mean, obviously, yes, the whole thing is like, okay, that's kind of messed up. Like, why would you turn anybody into your wife? But I'm like, I thought they were going to go more into that dynamic, but they never did. Kind of like like flashbacks or like, was it borderline abuse? You know, like going into that. Of
like the
whole psychology behind that. Yeah, like the whole psychology behind taking something, changing it into your wife. Was he trying to be romantic with her? Like, how does that all play out? Like, I was really curious about that entire experiment, but I felt like it was like, yeah, just turn on my wife, and I messed up. I'm like, no, what happened between you being really excited and you realizing that you messed up? Like, that was what I was really interested in, because I'm like, that seems like this seems like there's a lot of backstory right there. Like, how did that work?
He in the book never captured a changeling.
Okay.
But he said the only picture that he had on him was of his wife. And so I guess he just was like kind of lonely and talking to the watchers and like showing them pictures and be like, this is what I do. And just kind of like going through that backstory, which is how they were able to like, I guess, gather some information about him and blah, 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 blah. So it wasn't like any kind of nefarious stuff going on in the book. It seemed more like a lonely man trying to...
But he was still studying them, right?
Yes.
It just so happened to be that he met one that could walk, and then it developed after the pictures that he had, you know, blah, blah, blah.
In the book?
Yeah.
No, he never met one. He never met a watcher.
I thought he met the one that turned into his wife. Wait, so where'd he go?
What do you mean? One more time.
In the book, the professor never met the changeling that was his wife.
No.
Oh, so did he die?
Yeah.
How'd he die?
I think it was just he kind of gave up. He kind of hurt himself, and he realized that he wasn't able to make the journey to the boat because it was pretty far. And so he was like,
Okay, so he never like captured. So you mean literally never captured?
Never captured.
Did not meet one. Did he see them? Because he had the glass window.
He did. And I think he was able, I think he watched them for a while, and then that's when he saw them like mimicking his face and how it was like very grotesque or whatever. And that's when he started dimming it a little bit more so you can't see them at night when they're watching.
He said, I don't like that.
He said, that was spooky.
He said,
mistakes
keep
for me.
working on that.
Let me know
Turn
when you're
that
done.
air. Let me know when y'all done.
Let him cook. Let him cook. But yeah, like he said in his tape that he was like, I feel like somebody's watching me during the day. And he was like, I was told that they can't come out. Well, I was told the fairy tales of fairies said that they weren't able to walk at night or walk it during the messed that all up.
Hello? Yes.
They weren't able to walk at daytime.
In the daytime, yes.
Yes, they weren't able to be in the sunlight. He's like, but what if one of them could? And then that's
where it ended for him.
That's where we're alluding to Madeline's existence.
So he dies off.
Yep.
Because he can't make it back, and he's kind of given up and lost all hope.
Yep. And he feels bad.
Did he kill himself?
No, he didn't have a gun.
He just died.
Right. He like kind of just let them take over, because also the coop is like set up a little bit differently in the book. It's a 2-room place instead of the one single room, and there's like a hallway as well that divides the 2 rooms. One of the rooms has a window without any glass, so like the watchers could come in that way. So I think that's where he was when he ended up dying. But yeah, he kind of gave up. I think he also felt bad for like killing off all those people and like literally like
for nothing.
Literally, because he was like, yeah, I would offer them all sorts of money that they wouldn't see in their lifetime because I knew they would never get it. I was like, ooh, yikes, Cerrones.
Yep. So then after he passes away, that's when the one that was walking around,
she takes over.
She finds a picture of his wife, and then she turns into the wife.
Yep.
Okay. And
or like she might have been there as he was like kind of like, you know, because she could still be there at night too while everybody else is there. Because he was talking to the watchers about the wife. But I don't know. Anyways, continue.
Okay. But then at the end, it's okay. We're moving on. So then when the changeling turns into his wife and assumes that role, the other watchers don't seem to come back in the same way. It's like, why did Madeline then start helping the humans instead of being like, I don't really care, and then like letting the
Well, I
watchers
think it's
take over
because she
them?
felt lonely. Like she didn't feel like that she belonged with the other watchers because she
Okay.
was the only one who could walk around. So I think she connected more
They didn't make
with
her an
him.
OG. I feel like that would make you like a god tier fairy. They're like, you could do more.
Gross.
You could walk around and not, we can't do
Right.
that. Like now you bullying her.
Yeah,
And you could
basically.
be using
They
them.
said you're different. It's like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Well, that's crazy, actually.
So she also didn't want to kill Martin.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, there's so much we could have learned from him. And then like when he died, she's like, I went into the home that he built for me. So she had a very personal relationship with him
Mm-hmm.
that he never was aware of. But I guess she felt more connected with him because she felt different and he was different too.
Okay.
And so, yep, that's why she moved into the home and was like really into like keeping it clean and functioning and, had
didn't
all
let
these
the other
rules.
watchers in.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yep, she had all these rules too, just like in the book,
Gotcha.
in the movie.
Okay. Well, that's completely different from the movie. 'Cause
Yeah.
in the movie, I'm like, not you kidnapping one, forcing
was
it to become your
captured,
wife
yep.
because you're obsessed with your dead wife. I'm like, what? That's a whole story in and of itself.
That's true. I didn't even think about that, but it's completely
I'm
different
like,
dynamic.
huh? Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, they never met. That is a huge difference.
Yeah.
But
And then Danny, whenever he attacks Madeline in the movie, felt very weird. I was like, why is he even doing that?
yeah, we needed more time with these characters.
Yeah.
Because it was a little bit like,
It also seemed like a little off too in the book. It was like very like all of a sudden, but then like we kind of learn more about Danny's character, about how he was abused by his dad. Like he just didn't feel safe with Madeline. He finally had enough because she was always talking shit about that boy. Like literally when we first meet him, he's like just trying to introduce himself to Mina, like, hey, I'm Danny. And she's like, shut the fuck up, Danny. I was like, damn.
she tired of his ass.
She hated him, bro.
Is he pretty much the same character though? As
Yeah,
okay.
he's like the weakest link type of
Okay.
character. But in the book, later on, we get a conversation about with Kira and Danny, and he's like, yeah, have we ever noticed like Madeline just kind of does her own thing? Like she's just kind of weird. Like she told you that she was doing this and she wasn't. Like she was supposed to be with me, but she wasn't. And like one time she snuck up on me and he was like, maybe she's using the burrows. So he kind of had an idea that there's something wrong with her. So that might have been like why he also felt the need to like to do some kind of action to keep her out. But I feel like that was a pretty interesting clue in the book or in the movie, because it's like, wouldn't her smell of like probably smelling like a watcher be the one that really deterred them from finding them in the beginning? Also, I would have not let them back in. Let's be for real. You're telling me you survived those watchers out there and then came back to the door? You're not.
Again, and you're going to kill me.
Right.
I made my decision.
Either way. Either if you're a watcher
Yeah.
or just a real person.
You got to stick. I'm going to stand beside my decision.
Right. You gonna have to
Y'all got
die.
to die.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, you're not coming back in here talking about, I forgive you. No, I wouldn't forgive me. Don't do it. That's how you ended up there in the first place. Being gullible. But I did like the concept overall. Like I thought it was a good concept. I just think that it was a little bit cheesy, a little forced in some areas. And I felt like the characters, I could tell there's a lot to some of the characters. Not a lot, but
There could have been more.
there's more backstory to the characters that I wasn't getting. So if this was like a limited series,
I think it could have been,
I think it'd been really good. So then we can slow it down. We don't need her talking to the bird about her entire business the first 10 minutes of the movie, because we have, I get it. You're trying to get the audience to catch up to where we need to be at in like a short period of time. But I feel like if it's a show, we can gradually push that in. We can add more weird things about Madeline. We can show her human side versus the, so then at the end when she's making her decision to not kill everybody, it's not like, huh? That. And then maybe set it up for a second season if there's like, that's happening. So,
Yep. I agree. I think it could have been done way better as a series, because like that's what you need. You need to have that claustrophobic feel that they have, and because like there was a lot of tension whenever they didn't let Kira open up the door for John, and she was pissed, and like Danny and Kira were very close, and Danny felt even more alone because of like her being upset with him and everything. So it was like those moments were they're a much more bigger deal in the book, and those things were kind of lost in the movie, I feel like, because we just kind of brushed past them. They're like, oh
yeah. They didn't have much time to react to some of the situations.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, nobody knows this forest is raggedy. Like at this point, this hasn't been taken off the GPS.
Yeah.
There's not like a road that goes right around it.
Right. Road closed sign.
Something.
Nothing.
But you know what? She had to get there somehow.
Yeah.
not people backpacking there. Like at some point, the lore is real enough to where at least some people are like, people disappear in there. Maybe not.
I feel like there should have been, like, I'm surprised that there wasn't any like stories about that forest that were more popular. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because clearly it's real.
Yeah.
And people are, I mean, I don't know. In the book, did they say anybody was missing? Because I know in the movie, we see when she stops at the gas station, they have that missing persons board.
Which I think was really cool. And I feel like there should have been like some warnings too that she saw before going there. Or like even like the people around there, like they don't know the story about
like
it.
At least the locals.
Right.
Who had men go missing, and then I'm assuming other people might have gone missing. Like, you know, when you go to a town, they're like, yeah, don't go over there. And you're like, I won't.
Right. Nothing. But I mean, it's very similar. The way that, or like the reason why she's in the forest is very similar. She just doesn't work at a pet shop. She just is at a bar, and this guy's like, hey, you want some money? Deliver this bird. She's like, okay.
She said, bet.
So anything else?
I don't think so. The only thing else I could say is, have you seen, it's called The Changeling. It's on Apple TV. It is, obviously it's called The Changeling. But you should watch it, and you, the viewers, should also watch it. I think it's pretty good. It has to do with this kind of lore.
Like the fairies.
Basically,
when they change the babies?
Yes. Yeah, it has to do more with the baby changing.
Not the diapers.
Sorry. They wish. They wish it was changing diapers. But yes, it's pretty good. Yeah, Apple TV. It's only one season. I think the second season's coming out soon. But yeah, it has to do with that. I mean, but it's pretty good because it deals with like, I think it's also a book. But this is a limited series, so it kind of drags it on like a little bit better. Justice. But basically, it's like there's a couple, they have a baby, something's not right. But then it deals with like postpartum depression because, you know, is the mom just crazy? Is she not? But it was pretty good, and then you just dive into that world. But as soon as they started talking about it, I was like, oh, is it a changeling? And then they're like fairy, and I was like, yeah, they call them fairies too. So I know it's definitely like a real lore that they got out there. So who knows?
Yeah. It's very interesting. I will not be visiting the Irish forests.
No, it was up there
or wherever we were. I don't know.
There's probably a lot of lore up there, kind of like the Appalachian Mountains. Is that right? There's so much lore up there.
What was that?
That was me. Sorry, that was the map of the U.S. and I just like that was the Appalachian. But they always say there's a bunch of what do they call them? Skinwalkers. Is it? It's kind of a similar concept, I think.
I think so.
I don't know if they can turn into humans physically, but I do know that they're supposed to be able to recreate
like noise
sounds.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, it's very similar to that, but it's always like in the middle of nowhere. They're always like in a mountain or the forest or something that you're not supposed to be doing. Because every time I'm on TikTok, there's somebody telling a story, and everybody's like, oh yeah, I'm from there. You don't go in those mountains.
I know.
Do that and that.
Where was that vibe?
Where was that kind of warning in the movie?
Right.
Yes, but I mean, I guess you wouldn't have a movie if nobody was in it. But that's why you have those dumb teens. That's why every horror movie is about dumb teenagers. They go in there, I don't believe in it, and then
yep, true,
gone. Anyway, but overall, I thought it was good. I thought I was entertained. I'll say that, which I think is pretty good because sometimes I get very bored. I think at the end I was like, ugh, we're stretching this out. But
boy, it felt long.
It was getting long at the end because I was like, what else are we doing? Because then she was like, oh, I'm free. And I'm like, oh, cool. They're going home on the bus, and then she kept seeing her. What's going on?
Yep. What do you give it? Out of 5.
Out of 5? I'll give it a 2.5 out of 5.
Yep.
What about you?
I originally gave it a 2.5 out of 5. But after reading the book and knowing like how much better it could have been, I just lowered down half a star to just a straight up 2. Okay. It was a very average time. It was just, if you think about a horror movie, it was this. You know what I mean? It's like, just not fun.
Damn.
No, it was fine.
Yeah.
I felt like it just wasn't exciting or fun or new. Like it felt like something I've seen before, even though it was like material I've never heard of before.
I was going to say it was like that was carrying it, but had they taken that out and replaced it with anything else, you're right. It kind of felt like
it's generic. Yeah. That's at the end of the day, it's just generic. So, but I mean, which isn't bad. If you don't really watch a lot of horror movies, maybe you'll enjoy it.
That's true.
But I hope M. Night Shyamalan's daughter keeps going.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. Oh, I will say the cinematography was really good. Like the shots.
Oh, I think it looked
great. I was like, it looked great. And a lot of the shots I really liked. And I think Dakota Fanning pretty good. Like I thought the acting was decent. So I wouldn't say it was like a bad movie, but you know, I think that there's some improvements, but it is hard to adapt a book into a movie, especially nowadays when you're just doing a straight one movie. So that's pretty tough.
It was like there's so much like stuff that they wanted to cram in there.
Yeah.
Like not them escaping and then seeing that portal thing and then Madeline being like, this is where they did this and this and this. I was like, aren't we running out of time?
Yeah, you're like, we don't have much time for this. Bro, episode 2? No, we don't have that.
Keep running, bro. So yeah, it was just like a lot of stuff was like squeezed in there, and I was like, okay, I guess she's just telling her whole backstory to a fucking bird in a door. You know what I mean? I was,
she had no friends.
She didn't know how to communicate at the end of the day,
but at the end she did. The power of friendship.
If you love watching,
if you like Shyamalan twists and watching people through windows, then you'll love our Instagram at Hayley and Kayli. We also have a TikTok at Hayley and Kayli, right? Is that what it is? Yes.
It's been a while. At Hayley and Kayli, where you can also check out some more content from us. What else do we have, Hayley?
We have a YouTube channel. If you're watching us, you already know, but it's Hayley and Kayli. And you can email us at presspodcast@gmail.com if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or any recommendations for us. And I think that's it. Yep. Are we on podcast? Is that what we're doing?
We supposed to be.
We may or may not be on a podcast platform near you.
Right, at Press Podcast.
At Press Podcast. Good luck finding that.
Right. But let us know what you thought about this one down below in the comments. Were you a fan of The Watchers? Did you read the book? It's pretty good. I would recommend even after watching the movie. But yeah, I don't know what we're talking about next time. Sorry for such a long delay too. Guys, when I tell you this year's been crazy.
Listen.
There were, what is it called? Some kind of circumstances. I forget what the word. But yeah, personal things happen, but we're still here thriving and surviving, and we'll try better.
Sorry to all our fans.
Right. We appreciate you for sticking around, and we'll talk about whatever movie we're talking about next time. I don't know, because I don't really know. Maybe Long Legs, but I feel like that comes out later in July.
We'll stay posted.
We'll figure it out.
Madeline is actually a halfling, if you will. She's biracial. She's a biracial girl.